So, good afternoon everyone, welcome, thank you for coming. So I wish you happy Christmas. So let's sing a song to begin. And we're going to sing a song about yoga. So, I'm from England, and in England there is this custom of giving gifts at Christmas, yeah? In many countries the same, yeah? And this idea, when I was a little boy, I remember at school writing a list of things you would like for Christmas. Did you do this when you were young? Yeah? You don't do it?
No, we don't.
No?
You know about the concept.
Yeah. So, we're so materialist and acquisitive in England. We write this list of things you want. Yeah? And I was thinking about what I would like for Christmas now. And I think I would like to be more myself. And since I was quite young, I kind of prided myself on being myself. You know? But when I look at it, I see that still, then and still now, there is still some pretense. And there are some ideas and habits and patterns that somehow they have adhered to me, or I have adhered to them, but they're not my own, in the sense that when I'm operating driven by those patterns, I'm not wholly myself. Do you know what I mean? Is anybody thinking, what on earth is he talking about? Have you ever felt this type of thing? And so I feel very grateful for this gift of yoga, which is intended, yoga practice, to train us in the ways of coming out of these M-patterned behavioral grooves. Yeah? So we can be a little freer. And the way that yoga invites this is what we're going to sing together now. So we're going to sing a simple song with just a few words. First word is Ganesha. Say Ganesha.
Ganesha.
Sharanam.
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 Ganesha.
Ganesha.
Om Gam.
Om Ram.
Ganapataye.
Ganapataye.
Namaha.
Namaha.
Om Gan Ganapataye.
Om
Gan Ganapataye. Namaha.
Namaha.
So basically, this song says, we take refuge in yoga. So Ganesha, say again Ganesha.
Ganesha.
The way I understand it, Ganesha means yoga. Because Gana means a member or a group. It means both of these things. So Gana is a part that makes up a whole. So the idea is we have many parts. And Ganesha is that energy where all the parts have been reconciled. They've all been acknowledged. They've all been witnessed, if you like, recognized, and brought into cohesion. And so the idea in any yoga technique or practice, method, is to recognize, acknowledge, and work with all the parts and invite them into this present moment. Yeah? And that is the state, if you like, of Ganesha. And Sharanam, we take refuge in that state. So when we practice a technique, so Emil, you are practicing Ashtanga Vinyasa, yes? So this practice modality or methodology is a lovely illustration of these principles of yogic methodology, because you have various supports to invite the different members of the group to really participate. Yeah? So sometimes people have this idea, oh, that's a physical practice. But there's no such thing as a physical yoga practice. There's no such thing as an intellectual yoga practice. There's no such thing as a devotional practice. Because if it's a yoga practice, it will invite all the parts. So in the Ashtanga Vinyasa method, of course, you have to work with the body, but you have to work with the body whatever practice you're doing, because here you are. Yeah? But then we use lots of clever and skillfully formulated means to help ensure that the different powers, the different gang members, if you like, the different group members, are all participative. Yeah? What are some of these things that you use?
Mental faculty.
Mental faculty. So you have to concentrate on the count. Yeah? So when you have this count, it means you can't just do the shapes with your body, you have to do them with your mental faculty as well. Yeah? What other faculties or powers does that style of practice encourage or invite you to recruit?
Breathing.
So the agency of the breath. And in order to work with the breath, what other faculties do you need to use?
Your muscles.
Your muscles, but also you need to... the sense of touch, yeah? The sense of touch, and also you listen to the breath, yeah? But the breath may be very soft and quiet, but you're still listening. So you're using the sense powers of hearing and touch, feeling the way the breath lifts you and grounds you. So you're recruiting the sense powers. And the idea is, when you do this integrated practice, all your senses, at the end of the practice, when you come into Shavasana, they can all settle in this joyful restfulness because they feel so satiated. Is this what you experience every day? So this is the idea, is because every time you move through space, you are interacting with the air and the space and the earth and the flow of energy. It should be very nourishing for the sense of touch. And with drishti, oh no, we didn't say that one. But with drishti, the sense of vision also. So there is that you're inviting all the sense powers, the mental focus, the bodily powers. And how emotionally do you do the practice?
The emotion forms the context.
Have you ever done the practice like this?
Yes.
And how do you feel at the end?
Agitated.
Yeah. So yoga recognizes that everything we do is training. Every single moment we are in training. Because we get good at what we practice. And we get not good at what we don't practice. Yeah? So if there are some things we never do then, for example, there may be something that you used to do when you were a child and you did it very, very well, but you might not have done it for decades, and you might realize with a surprise, ooh, can't do it so much anymore. Has anybody got an example of something like this?
Playing guitar.
Playing the guitar, yeah? So you practice it for a while, and there'll be some retention. But if we don't keep practicing, the system can be trained in other ways, which is a wonderful gift. Because it means we don't have to be chained to how it used to be. And so this is one of the beautiful ideas in yoga, is that we can create a new reality. And so this is we're at the cusp of the year, this whole Christmas and New Year festival time. Is anybody going to make a resolution?
I'm not going to make a resolution, that's my resolution.
That's the resolution. I'm not in the habit of making New Year's resolutions, but they say in yoga that one of the most important qualities for practice is what they call śraddhā. Say śraddhā.
śraddhā.
Do you know this word? So śraddhā is the first quality that Patanjali mentions in the Yoga Sutra that we need if we're going to practice. And śraddhā, often if you go to a translated, published edition of the Yoga Sutra, which word will they use? You gotta have faith. Yes? But if you find the word faith, or you hear or read the word faith, what do you think of?
Religion.
Religion?
Blind faith?
Blind faith. Anybody else? Believing. And this is, none of these are what śraddhā means. So śraddhā is faith, but in the sense it's that confidence, that conviction that you gain from putting things to the test in your own exploration. So you could call it self-trust, or the faith that comes from your own authentic lived experience, from your own investigations in the laboratory of your life. Yeah? Now, this is such a primal quality in the yoga system. But how do you develop faith? How do you develop this trust in yourself?
Experience.
This by experience. But one way you can cultivate self-trust is by making promises that you keep. So by making a resolution and doing it. Yeah? So for example, next week I'm going to do this Foundations in Yoga Philosophy, Practical Yoga Philosophy course, and we will explore many lenses of inquiry and many kind of frames for inquiry. And you might, if you come to the course, I really like this, I'm going to do this every day. But then what's the risk? Like, you go to a weekend, or you go on retreat with Tashin for a week, and you learn all these new things, and you're feeling great doing all these new things. And then you go home, you think, okay, I want to do this every day. What might happen?
You don't do anything.
And then what happens to your self-trust?
It's worse.
It's eroded, yeah. So I'm very, I have to say, David, Emil, Joachim, I'm very pleased to see a healthy representation of the male side of the species in the room, but many women in the room today. So basically, yoga says, what is this? Let's all do it with our left hand. What is this?
Shiny stuff.
Shiny stuff.
Heartbeat.
Heartbeat, yeah. This is a morning light. Warning light.
Indicators.
And then with the right hand do this. And what is the right hand?
Cycles.
Cycles, yeah. So the left hand, we could say, is pulsation. Is expansion and it's contraction. And the right hand is cycling. And really these are two ways of, try it the other way now. Right hand pulsing, left hand cycling. And really these are two ways of describing, go back to the first way, describing the same phenomena, yeah? And this phenomena, you could say, this is life. Yeah? It's an expansion and a contraction. It's an opening and a closing. It's an up cycle and a down cycle. It's the summer and the winter. Yeah? It's the dark and the light. And yoga, being practical, recognizes this is how life is. Life is not one of these graphs that so-called economists are fond of. And the ever onward growth. Yeah? The problem in our world is that we have economia, the management of the ecos, of the resources, without ecologia, the understanding of the resources. The yogic research scientists, sometimes referred to as rishis, have you heard this term, rishi? So rishi basically means one who sees. So all the teachings of yoga, they all came from the observation of life, the observation of nature. And these research scientists, they observed and they saw aspects of truth, we might say. And this is why in the Indian tradition we have this idea of unauthored texts. Have you come across this idea? Like the Veda has no author. It is apaurushaya, they say, made without a purusha, without an individual conscious being to author it. Have you heard this idea?
Sure.
It's a bit puzzling. When I first came across this idea, I thought, but it's a text, somebody had to write it down.
No, but it's been worked on over the years, right?
Yeah, so the idea is, it wasn't created, it was seen. The idea, like Isaac Newton, this is the example that one of my Sanskrit teachers gave. He says, James, one of your people is a good example. Isaac Newton, there he was, sitting under the tree, and the apple hit him on the head. And he saw. He got the idea. It's like the laws of motion, they were pertaining before and since. But he had that vision, he had that aha moment when he recognized it, he saw it. So he didn't author the laws of motion, he saw them, he recognized them. And there's the idea that all of the yoga teachings, they come from this observation of nature. And so they recognize that nature is not just kind of constant upward motion. Life is pulsation, life is cycles. And so here we are gathered on Christmas Day, and having been in the latitudes of relatively northern Europe less than 2 weeks ago, I have to say, it doesn't feel particularly Christmassy in Mysore, because I came from the dark time of the year. What time do you get up in the morning here, Liz? 5:30. How does it feel getting up at 5:30 in the morning in Mysore in December? Quite nice, yeah? Quite easy. How does it feel getting up at 5:30 in the morning in December in Stockholm?
It's a struggle.
It feels almost like you are being somehow unnatural. It feels very like in England in December, 5:30 feels like the middle of the night sometimes. Getting up at 6:30, oh okay. Dawn is not so far away, but it's still so black and dark at 5:30. And yoga works with the whole of these cycles. Now Christmas, it's the festival in England. Is it the same in Sweden? It's the festival.
You could say so, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the family festival?
Yeah. Everybody loves it. Where are you from, Polly?
England.
From England, yeah. Catherine from England. Liz?
England, but I live in Portugal.
Okay.
Half Greek, half Scottish.
Okay. Joachim?
Belgium.
Belgium. Sweden and China. Russia.
United States.
Which part of the States?
Boston.
Okay, so also you have a harsh winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have friends who are from Southern Europe. Christmas is a big festival, but it's not the same as it is in Northern Europe. They're like Semana Santa, yeah, Easter week, and summer solstice, big celebrations. In England though, and I think it's the same in northernmost, like Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Scandinavia, Christmas is the festival. In Mysore, there's a festival every week. But in England and other places of such a latitude, Christmas is such a big festival. And why do you think that is? I think it's because the winter's really quite hard. And so when we move out of the solstice, and 2 or 3, 4 days go by, we start to note how the day's getting a little bit longer. We feel this great celebration. And also, because the winter is so dark, it really invites this down part of the cycle. It really invites this introspection after the harvest to kind of gather in and process all of the lessons of the previous spring and summer's expansion. And then once we pass the solstice, it's like we've started to incubate all of the gifts of that previous season. So something new can start to emerge. And so we're reminding ourselves that the dark too carries wonderful gifts. Winter, she comes with her particular special gifts, yeah? So I mean, for women in the room, there's the idea that your physiology, from the Kashmiri Shaiva yogic viewpoint, they say the woman is much more advanced than the man, naturally, because of the greater creative capacity within your physiology. And it's harder for a woman to be out of balance than a man, they say, because of the influence of this creative force of nature within you. So practicing Ashtanga Vinyasa, you observe the moon, yeah? Yeah? But when you're a woman, you also can't avoid but notice it, yeah? So when is a good time in your cycle to make a resolution? Like, if it's when, in the summer of your cycle, yeah, when you're ovulating, is it a good time to make a commitment? So every day, I will get up at 4, and I will do 1 hour pranayama, 1 hour meditation, 2 hours asana, 1 hour singing. Then I will have a morning breakfast of prana. Yes, and men too, we have the same thing, to a lesser degree. It is not a great idea to make a resolution at that peak of your cycle, because that isn't sustainable. But now, as winter starts to shift, this is a sensible time to make a resolution, because there's more chance to make a resolution you can honour, make a promise you can keep, and so build and strengthen your śraddhā, your self-trust. Does that make sense? Now, of course, in the society we live in, the idea of resolution has become, let's say, somewhat overshadowed by ambition. But the idea is, when you've been introspective, when you've had that quiet time to withdraw and check in with all the parts, perhaps we can feel, you know, what is really important for me in this next movement, in this next cycle. And how could I be a skillfully participative agent in inviting that which I'd really like to blossom a bit more? Does that make sense? But first, we have to check in with all the parts. So we'll sing this song in the spirit of checking in with all the parts. Yeah? So as you sing, I invite you to let the sound reach into every cell and really feel the sound. So like when you do your asana practice, do it with every cell. Okay?